Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Marissa Price, MSW, of course. Today I have a very special guest. Coach Yolanda Toole is here. And we're going to be chatting about trusting spirit, reconnecting with ancestors to navigate difficult life transitions. We're also going to talk about things like Saturn return,
Mm.
which if you are in that period right now, or if you remember that period in your late 20s to early 30s and all the changes that occur during that time, you'll want to hear what Yolanda has to say about that, because it is a time. It is definitely a time. But yeah, I'll introduce her and then I'll pass it over to her to introduce herself. But yeah, Yolanda is a healer, a speaker, a doula, and a Reiki practitioner. And I actually worked with her. She's my spiritual life coach as I was in the throes of exiting a toxic job and realizing that I deserved better. And her help was, whew, I needed it so bad. So she's
Mm.
so special to me. And I will pass it over to her to introduce herself.
Thank you, Marissa. First and
Mhm.
foremost, I love you. I so love you. I'm like, have I ever told Marissa how much I love her? I love you. I love the work that you have done and that you are doing. And when we were working together, I, I was just, I feel proud that
Mhm.
you feel like I played any part in who you
Yes.
are right now. It's
Mhm.
an honor for me, and it's an honor to be here tonight. I was so excited that I did what I don't normally do. I came
Mhm.
home. I relaxed, like I felt so relaxed because I knew that I was going to have a loving, healing conversation. When you
Yeah.
know that you are walking into something loving, it does wonders for your spirit. And so I didn't rush home. I didn't, I smoked a cigar. I played with the dog. Like I was so relaxed knowing that
Yeah.
I was walking into love. So thank you for creating this space, not just for us to have this conversation, but for other people to also feel
Mhm.
love. And so I'm grateful that we're having this conversation at a time where there's transitions going on, whether it's the transition from one season to another, life transitions, feeling
Mhm.
transitions. I'm going through a transition in my life right now. Uh, I've owned Evolving Spirit Wellness since 2017. Started out as a massage therapist,
Yeah.
which led me to Reiki, which led me to becoming a spiritual life coach, studying at Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development with my spiritual mama, Iyanla Van Zant.
Mhm.
And so many things have come from that time in 2017 where I felt like I have just been spiritually led to do things that I thought were original to me, but as I reflect on it, it's part of my lineage. It's part of what I come from. I come from a family of healers, though they may not have called themselves that. You
Mhm.
know, my mother, while she had an office job, she still on the side would take care of elderly patients and people.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, my grandmother, even though from the time that I knew her as a young girl, was in a wheelchair, people came to her for advice. People came to her to be fed well.
Yeah.
We went to her for healing. You know, when my mother was stressed and didn't know what else to do, it was let's get in the car, go to South Carolina to see my mama because she knew that that was a safe haven. So I come from a long line of healers. Even my father, he started out as a cook in the military, wound up being a drill sergeant, and in his own way was
Mhm.
also healing by guiding young men early in their life. Even when
Mhm.
he retired, he worked with young men that were incarcerated. So I come from a family of healers.
Mhm.
My house growing up was the house that you went to be fed. If you got kicked
Yeah.
out to sleep, there was never a place in my home growing up where there wasn't someone who was seeking some sort of refuge. And
Mhm.
again, I didn't look at that as healing. I just thought my parents are awesome. People could stay here, the old, the young, it didn't matter. Someone
Mhm.
one was going to be staying with us because they needed something. And my parents never thought it was too much or too much of a strain to feed, to house, to clothe, to support one another. And so if we look back on our lives and look at them in that way, we might find that we all are healers in one way or another. One of the people that is near and dear to me, my prayer partner, I call her the disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Sagittarius, so you know what that
Okay.
means. But she disrupts patterns of foolishness, and I love that about her. She will ask the questions that need to be asked. She will shut stuff down, and in that way, she is a healer. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
we always think of healers as being nice and kind and sweet, and sometimes that's not what is necessary and needed. And as I was
True.
thinking about you, you are an activist, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we think activism has to coincide with aggression. And it
Mm-hmm.
works in certain situations and for certain people, but you have such a gentle demeanor, but you're still disrupting systems and things that have gotten in the way of people feeling good and healed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for this conversation. I'm excited because it's you, but I'm excited for this conversation because I think we need to have more of them for all of us to realize that we are all healers
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another, whether it's a comment, a gesture that you might give someone in the supermarket that you may not think is a big deal. You don't know if it's a big deal to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if we think about it in that way, that I'm healing. As I'm growing, as I'm learning, as I'm interacting with people throughout my day, I am healing others and
Mm-hmm.
healing myself. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all of those things that you said that I am, they all have a root
Yeah.
in my family line. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really thought of it that way. It's like, this is not new. You're just,
Mm-hmm.
you're just continuing what has already been done, and you're doing it in a different way. Which is why we must reconnect to our ancestral lineage, because we will find out so much about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we go through situations and we think we're the first in our family
Yeah,
to go through
that's
that.
true.
And I
That's true.
realize now there is nothing that I have gone through in my life that my mother, my grandmother, and all of the women in my life have not gone through in some form.
Mm-hmm.
And so I should not think that I'm alone in any
Mm.
situation.
Wow.
I should not think that this has not been experienced before. And I better go to them for their wisdom, their knowledge, even if they're not here physically. I can still go to them and acknowledge this is not new for us. How do I heal this?
Hmm.
How
That's
how
powerful.
how do
Yeah.
I heal this? Maybe my mother was not able to heal it in her lifetime,
Right.
but I can. And if I'm thinking in that way, then perhaps my daughters will also think, my mother may not have been able to heal this for us, but I can do that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we are all healers. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to say. We're all healers.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember when you told me that, I was resistant to that because I'm like, no, well, I don't do these things, so there's no way I could be a healer. But the
Mhm,
more that I like sat with that, and like you said, reestablished ancestral connections, which a lot of us feel like we can't do anymore because it feels so far removed.
mhm.
So that's kind of like a question I had, like, if it does feel so far away, like how can you just like do little things, right, to reestablish your connections with your ancestors to remind yourself that you do descend from healers.
And so for many of us, we may not
Mm,
have a direct connection to,
yeah.
who were my grandparents? Where did they come from? What were their lives like? But I consider myself to be a daughter of the African diaspora. And
Mm,
so let me discover things, traditional things. Let me discover cultural things. Let me discover whether I am correct about the region that it comes from or not. There's an element that's going to feel familiar to me.
mm-hmm,
And so, whether or not you have a direct connection to your lineage, to your ancestors, as I said, many of us do not, you will still feel it. It will
Mm-hmm.
feel right in your spirit. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those to try everything.
Mm-hmm.
If something scares you, then get clear about why are you afraid of it, because it might lead you to the very thing that you are looking for. So there are some, traditions, rituals. We were talking about the healing wisdom of Africa
Yeah.
book.
Yes.
I have read that book. I can't tell you how many times, but every single time that I read it, I discover something different, and it
Mm-hmm.
feels like I feel it in my heart that it resonates. And so for me, that is validation that this is not new,
Yeah.
that this is not unfamiliar, that this is something that's in my bones and in my blood. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to investigate further to see just how far
Right.
it's going to take me. And there
Mm-hmm.
may be some things that don't resonate. And if they don't, I don't, dishonor them. I just say, that's not for me. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, there had to have been some bald women in my ancestral lineage, because
Yeah.
every time I cut my hair, I'm like, yes,
Mm.
this feels authentic. This
Wow.
feels like this is who I am. Even if 2 weeks from now I'm like, I think I want to grow my hair out, and I'll try it. And then it comes to a point where I'm like, it doesn't feel right. So for me, that's how I know this is a connection to something that is beyond maybe even my conscious awareness. This is something that lives in me that I may
Mhm.
not have known if I didn't let it live in me, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. If I didn't discover, if I didn't explore, if I didn't study, if I wasn't curious, I may not have made the connection that this feels like home. This feels
Mm.
like home. And I also know when it's a direct connection, when my body may respond before my mind does. And what I mean about that is I notice that my nervous system calms down. I notice that I can't stop thinking about it. I might return to something. There have been particular books where I have picked up and I was like, that's not me. And I'll put it down, but something always draws me back. Or there
Yeah.
seems to be this synchronization of conversations. I'll hear other people talking about something. I'm like, I was just talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
So paying
Yes.
attention to the things that are going around, because as I say, spiritual activity is always going around, even when we're not consciously aware. There are
Mm-hmm.
always things,
Yeah.
happening. I was on the water on Saturday, and this dragonfly came and landed on this leaf on the water next to the boat that we were in. And I'm looking at this. I was like, "That's a message. I don't know what it means, but why would this
Mm.
dragonfly, you know, come near us at this moment and just stay there?"
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, okay, pay attention to what's going on around you. So the
Mm.
more you become aware of things that are going on within you and around you, and you start making those connections, I think to me, those are ancestral connections are being made. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't always know that. It wasn't always something that was taught to me or told to me. But even if I look back in my childhood, there was always something,
Mm.
that caught my attention or that I felt connected to. When I was younger, I was a tomboy, always outside. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't like being outside. I'm
Mm.
like doing something different. But now I've gone right back to that. It's like, I love being outside.
Yes.
So those are some of the ways that we can trust ourselves, trust the connections, the messages that are happening around us. I always say, get silent when there's too much
Mm-hmm.
going on in here
Mm-hmm.
and there's too much going on out there. It's like create a
Mm-hmm.
place and a space for yourself when you could just be quiet and see what's going on, see what's going
Mm-hmm.
on internally, and stop paying so much attention to what's going on externally, because there's a lot of messages within us that we
Right.
might be missing because we're focused somewhere else or our attention is somewhere else.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much for sharing. I have pages of notes every time we get done talking. Thank you.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
But I did have a question about like how do we reconnect to what we feel? Because often we're in our head so often like in Western societies,
Mhm.
even in toxic workplaces, right? We talk about that a lot. We're in our heads. How do we reconnect to our bodies and what we feel to even go down that path?
Where do you start? I would say, where do you start your day? If you,
Mm-hmm.
before you even get out of the bed, are already grabbing your phone, trying to see what the emails are saying, trying to see
That's
what
me.
you're, oh, Marissa.
That's me.
So I
Yeah.
like to think about it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to give myself to others before I give myself to myself? So am I going to give all of my energy, my focus, and my time to, and even my children? I love them dearly. Even my children, even my man. I love these people. But if
Mm-hmm.
I am not well, if I am not connected to me, I can't connect to you. And so I can't say that I'm always that way because sometimes if I hear the tone, the email tone goes off and I'm like, who's emailing me? Who's texting me? And it's like, wait a minute. You're about to give yourself away before you've
Yeah.
even given yourself the time
Ooh,
that
that's
you
true.
deserve. And that word deserve has meant so much to me in the past year because the the energy that I carry now is one of expectation and that I deserve. I expect
Yeah.
good things to happen to me and for me, but they cannot happen if I'm not good to me and for me. And
Whoa.
so, why would I pray for, hope for, and create and wish to create all of these good things, but I'm not making the space for them to flourish? I'm not pouring into me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I want to have a good life. Okay, well, are
Mm-hmm.
you creating space for that to happen? Or
Right.
are you filling up your life with everybody else gets me first? And
Mm-hmm.
then I might get a small portion of me. One of the things I asked one of my clients, and I may have asked you this, is why do you get the least of you? Why
Mm-hmm.
do you get the least of you, the least of your time, the least of your focus, the least of your energy, the least of your attention? Why are you we think that that's the way it's supposed to be and it's very grand. And listen, I was raised Baptist and sacrifice was always the first thing. Oh, yeah, it's great, but if there's no more me, I can't give you anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the
True.
ways is you have to take care of you first before you connect with anything else. It's nice to kiss other people in the morning. It's nice to say I love yous and start sending text message and emails, but
Mm-hmm.
connecting to yourself first. And not just in, okay, I feel good today and let me get about my day. Like connect with yourself physically. Check in with your body. How are you feeling? Did
Mm-hmm.
something happen over the night where now your back is feeling a way that it wasn't feeling like when you went to bed?
Yeah.
That's a message for you. Your body's trying to tell you something that maybe you
Mm-hmm.
were not consciously aware of when you were sleeping, but now that you are waking up, your body's like, listen, we were tossing and turning last night because something was going on up here that maybe you didn't clear out the night before. And let's address it before we move through our day. Check in with yourself spiritually. Are you praying? Are you meditating? For me, don't worry about how much you're doing it at first. Are you
Mm-hmm.
doing it? Are you connecting with yourself spiritually as you are waking up?
Mm-hmm.
Are you connecting with yourself mentally and emotionally? Asking yourself, what are you going to need today? You may already be aware of what your day entails, but how
Mm-hmm.
are you preparing for it? Or are you just jumping right into it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
how many
Mm-hmm.
of us wake up and the first thing we put on is anxiety because of
Oh.
what's coming? You haven't even
Wow.
brushed your
I
teeth
felt that.
yet, and anxiety is already all over your body. And it's like, this is how you're starting your day.
Ooh.
This is how you're approaching things.
Yeah.
This is how you're giving your gifts into the world through anxious energy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it. Keep your anxious energy to yourself.
Oh.
Cleanse and clear yourself. And I'm not
Mm.
just talking about a shower, brushing your teeth. I'm talking about energetically. Cleanse and clear yourself first. And if you do it as a practice, as a ritual, then it becomes a habit where Other people may not notice that's what you're doing.
Mhm.
I am practicing the art of looking like I'm asleep, but I'm not, because I know the dogs won't bother me. My children,
Yes.
they may open the door and look, but I'm
Mhm.
pretending like I'm asleep because this is my time. I'm checking in with me. And
Mhm.
I do that when I transition from one thing to another. If I leave the childcare center, I'll sit in my car because I'm leaving everything here before I pull off that parking lot into another phase of my life. I'm not taking any of this with me.
Mhm.
I'm not rushing from one thing to another. I'm taking time to recalibrate, check
Right.
in. What do you need? What was today like for you? What didn't you get? What do all of those things are an indication to the universe that I'm important and I see myself that way.
Mm.
So if we're co-creating with the universe, but we are lacking on the job because we're not taking care of ourselves,
Mhm.
we don't have anyone to blame. We can't blame the job all of the time if we are contributing to also not taking care of us. And
Right.
and that's one of the reasons that I chose to transition my business, because I realized I was the toxic work environment.
Mm.
It
Mhm.
wasn't everyone else, it was me. I wasn't taking care of me. I wasn't focusing on my mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, physical health. It was the grind, the grind, the grind, the grind.
Mhm.
And that's my four mothers and forefathers already did that,
Mhm.
so that I don't have to. That's my mindset.
Ooh. Wow.
And
Wow.
that's how I honor them.
Mhm.
The fact that I can go to them spiritually and say, I thank you for all of the work that you did on my behalf, because guess what? We don't do that anymore.
Ooh.
I'm freeing us from that.
Mhm.
And I think we've talked about that before, getting to the place where we recognize that rest is not a specialty, it's a requirement.
Mhm.
It has to be part of everything I do,
Right.
because that debt has already been paid for me. And I'm not thinking with that oppressive mindset that I got to do this, I got to do that. We tie so much of our value to how hard we're working, how late we're staying up, how much our nose to the. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I'm finding that I am accomplishing more with doing less than I ever did when I was running
Mm.
around like a crazy lady, trying to please everyone, be in all the places, be in all the spaces, going to this event, creating this.
Mhm.
It's so much more easy and relaxed. And I have to honor me. I have
Right.
to. I
Right.
have to. If I don't honor me, in many ways, it's disrespectful to all that those that came before me endured. Like, what was all of that for? For me to also feel like my back is broken and my
Mhm.
spirit is broken, and
Right.
that there's not enough for me. Um, we talk about Stephanie Perry all the time, and when she says there is enough for all of us
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
live it abundantly, you have to live it. You have to
Mhm.
live it and not wait for it. You have to live it and experience it and create it and cultivate it, and make space for it. And if that means some things have to be cut out, it's not a loss. I'm creating space for the things that I say that I want. So some things may have to go, and it's not a loss. It's an expansion.
Mm. Wow.
And I'm excited about it. I am
Yeah.
absolutely excited about it.
Mhm. And that's one of the things I feel like when things end, especially again in Western culture, society, if we feel like we have to mourn everything that ends, and while there may be some of those feelings that come up,
Mhm.
there's also excitement and expansion in what's coming next. But I feel like oppression teaches us kind of to be fearful of
Right.
what's to come often. Hmm.
We are multidimensional creatures. We can
Yeah.
mourn and also be excited at the same
Right.
time.
Right.
I can be sad that there are some things ending that I really, really enjoyed, I
Hmm.
really love doing, and also be excited for what is coming in its place and in the space that I am now creating and what I
Hmm.
learned from doing it. I had goals and visions for my business, but my life has changed. And so if the goal and the vision does not match up with the life changes, then it's time to make some decisions. What is it
Hmm.
that I want?
Right.
What values mean the most to me now? Because it may
Hmm.
have been different 5 years ago. And what I wanted today looks very different. Like none of this was on my bingo card at all, but it feels good in my spirit.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I'm not approaching it with fear. I'm approaching it with excitement, which I like to tell people those are the same. This is the same thing. Fear and excitement, anxiousness and excitement, it's the same energy, just manifesting differently.
Hmm. Hmm.
One has you in shambles and the other has you like in anticipation.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I'm choosing anticipation, I'm choosing excitement. There may be times when I'm anxious because I'm like, well, how are you going to pay your bills? And how are you going to do this? And what is this going to look like? And it's like, it's okay to feel that. And to be honest, when I am feeling that, and it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, you didn't know what was happening when you started this business. You didn't know what was going to happen the first year, the second year, the third year, and you still did it. So why is this any different?
Mm.
Why,
Hmm.
why now
Yeah.
is it time to be afraid when you weren't afraid when you said, I think I'm going to start my own business? Or I think I'm going to move out of the country, or I think I'm going to marry this person who, I've only known for, a small portion of their life. All of
Yeah.
those big choices that we make in our life, we did it.
Hmm.
We did it. And it doesn't mean that the next choice, that the next decision is going to bring the house down or it's going to be traumatic unless we see it that way, unless
Hmm.
we set it up that way where we're moving and our choices are made from a place of anxiety instead
Right.
of a place of, like I said earlier, my choices are made right now from a place of, I deserve this.
Ooh,
Absolutely
that's
deserve
powerful.
this. And not like entitlement, like I'm
Yeah.
entitled, but a feeling of this is what I prayed for.
Mm.
So I deserve it. And I have to act like I deserve it. And by
Hmm.
acting like I deserve it, that means I got to set my life up to receive it. Because why would I ask for something and then say, oh, I don't have time to do it?
Hmm.
Or I want a particular type of relationship, but I don't want to put in the work that is required to make sure that it grows. It's an investment in me. And just like any investment, you got to watch it, you got to check on it.
Yes.
You got to make sure that your decisions are sound and based upon, you know, things that you want to happen, that you desire to happen, and not like, well, I hope it works out that way. No, it deserves to work out that way.
Right. Right.
I deserve for this thing to work. And so let me set myself up so that it does. And
Right.
if that requires me to say goodbye to some things, I'm willing to do it. I'm
Hmm.
trusting. We talk about that a lot. I'm
Yes.
trusting.
Yes.
I'm trusting. I don't think we really pay attention and recognize how much we do trust ourselves. We always have.
Hmm.
When we were babies, we just jumped up and started walking. We didn't know if it was going to work, but we figured, if I put one foot in front of the other, something's going to happen.
Right. Right.
And every decision that we've ever made, there had to have been an element of trust that this may work, or we wouldn't have done it.
Hmm.
We wouldn't have done it. Even if we were afraid and we were doing it, we still would not have done it if there wasn't an element of trust.
Mm. Wow. Powerful. Powerful. I did want to talk about the pivot in your business.
Mhm.
I know that some of us may be going through like transformations, transitions in a similar fashion, but how did it feel for you to make that pivot, and what were some signs that it was kind of time to change directions for you?
Well, I've always called myself the pivot princess.
I
Um,
love that.
when things weren't working, it's like, well, we got to try something else. Well, we got to try
Yeah.
something else. Oh, we got to try
Hmm.
something else. And Right now, as I said earlier, there are parts of me where I feel guilty. There is some guilt because I feel like I'm not in the places and spaces that people expect me to be or would like for me to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I realize that that is a core belief of I've got to please other people. I've got to satisfy other people.
Yeah.
So there's still some residue of that in me because what else is guilt but I don't think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I'm working through that. I'm being honest about that. When it comes up, I'm like, are you doing this because you really want to do it or because you think it's expected?
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think has been one of the most challenging things to work through. It's like, well, people expect me to, and it's like, but do you want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't really want to authentically do it, it's not going to be done authentically. You're gonna
Oh.
be you're gonna be huffing and puffing in the background and fake and phony in the foreground,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna feel good in your spirit.
Mm.
And so that also goes back to trusting myself and also recognizing if it is something I'm supposed to do, it may be done in a way that I don't recognize or realize. So as a spiritual life coach, of course, I would take on clients one on one or groups and work with them. And I'm not necessarily doing that now. I'm not taking
Mm-hmm.
on clients, but I'm still coaching. One of the people that I work with today, because I jokingly say, I don't know if I'm coming back tomorrow. And they said, well, who is going to encourage me if you're not here? And I was like, okay. I said, you
Mm.
know what? We are going to encourage one another. I'll be back tomorrow. So it may not look like what it used to look like, but it doesn't mean that it's not still happening.
Mm.
And so I have to recognize that what I believe has to look a certain way may not need to look that way because I'm still going to be coaching no matter where I am because that's who I am. It's not what I do.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so I recognize that as a lifelong characteristic, whether it's a 3-year-old child that I'm coaching through their feelings or an adult. I have parents that come in the morning and it may not just be a hello, it might be a hey, how are you? And they would say, oh, I'm okay. No, you're not. That's me coaching. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
see that what you're saying doesn't match up to what I'm seeing, I'm going to
Right.
challenge you on it because that's what a coach does. And it may lead to a discussion of how did you know that? Because I see you. Because how do I
Mm.
know that no one else has said that to them on a day-to-day basis? I see you. And if you're not okay, I'm interested in wanting to know why. Not that I'm trying to fix it or fix you, but I really want to know, are you okay? Beyond the the niceties that we
Mm-hmm.
we offer one another.
Right.
So that's coaching.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working with one of the staff on something that they're doing, I'm not automatically doing it for them. I'm going to be asking questions. Well, why do you think you need to do it that way? Or what do you think is the best solution?
Mm.
In
Mm-hmm.
childcare, there's a lot of complaining because we are dealing with you little humans whose
Yeah.
behavior is unpredictable. So as the adults, we want to complain about it. We're confused. We don't know why, the little ones are doing what they're doing. And so I know that my role is to not chime in on the complaining, but to ask, well, how do we fix this? What's the best solution? What do you think we should do?
Mm-hmm.
And coach people through it. So I'm going to be a coach to the day I take my last breath because that's who I am. It may not be looking the way that I thought it was going to look, but it's
Right.
still there. And so working through the guilt and knowing it was time to pivot because I was giving more than I was receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not anyone else's concern but mine. I did that. I did that. When I recognized that I was frustrated or disappointed or just grumbling about the very thing that I said that I want to do, it's like, you said you want to do this. So why are you upset and frustrated about it? Something is out of balance.
Yeah.
And it's the way you're seeing it, the way you're doing it, because you're giving more than you're receiving. And again, that's probably rooted in let me do what people think I'm supposed to do. Let me do what is expected of me instead of let me do what's authentic to who I am.
Ooh. Mm.
Is
There
it
you go.
real or is it what I think I'm supposed to be doing? Like, no, if it's not real, then why do it?
Yeah.
All of the experience, the wisdom, the training, and the money and everything that I paid to get to this place, I'm going to do it in an inauthentic way. No, ma'am.
Mm.
Not what you were called to do. You were called to be your real self and to show up with your real gifts, your real talents, and not just give what you think you're supposed to, and be in places and spaces that are putting you into overwhelm because that
Mhm.
serves absolutely no one. And so I would say to
Mhm.
anyone, if you are doing something, even if it's your passion, but you're overwhelmed, you need to check where the imbalance is. Because the thing that is your passion should not hurt you. The thing that you were
Oh.
created to do should not hurt or harm you.
Huh.
It
Uh-huh.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
It should be the most loving thing that you engage in.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that you're always going to feel good about it. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be convenient. Take convenience out of it. But it should feel like it's loving. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Mhm.
If you're getting up in the morning, you're like, oh God, I got to go back to this place. Why are you going to that place? And how are you giving of your best self when in here you all tore up
Mm.
and miserable and frustrated? And you can't
Yeah.
wait to get out the door at the end of the day. You know, my day may technically end at 4:30, but sometimes I'm still there to 6 o'clock because I love what I do and I want to set it up and set myself up in such a way that when I come in the next morning, I'm not anxious. I make sure my desk is organized. I make sure I do and set myself up for success instead of failure. So, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like I love what I do and it's demonstrated and shown in the way I keep my space, in the way I greet people, you know, I I can't be in a place where I don't feel my best self. I just can't.
Mhm.
And so it may be a luxury, it may be privilege for me to be able to say that. But if you are in an environment where you are not feeling your best self, you got to ask yourself, why am I here? Or can I change the way that I feel
Mhm.
about this place?
Mhm.
And if you can't change the way you feel about it, then you probably need to change you being there, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think I've talked enough about how my mother worked at a job that she couldn't stand and only had 10 years after retirement. She worked that job 20, I think maybe 30 years. She gave them 30, but she only got 10.
Mm. Wow. Yeah.
That's insane to me. That is absolutely insane to me. And
Mm.
without me even recognizing it along my life, I've worked in places. I have not always left those places graciously, but if I felt in my spirit, you got to get out of here, I would leave in the middle of the day, like I've had it, or I'm not coming back. They'd be like, "You didn't give us 2 weeks notice. The hell with your 2 weeks. I'm out of here. I'm not giving you 2 more weeks to
Yeah.
turn me into a monster. I'm out of here."
Ooh.
You know,
Ooh.
I
That
wouldn't,
part.
I wouldn't take any personal stuff to those places because I was like, if you got to leave this place, then you're gonna leave.
Mhm.
And I can't say that it's cost me greatly, but I have never regretted any place that I've left. I can remember walking into one place that I worked at, and as I'm walking across the parking lot, I could hear myself say, "Turn around, go home. Turn around and go home. Turn around, go home."
Wow.
And I got in the place and I sat down, put my bag down, and this woman walked in, and the look on her face was like she is ready for trouble. Before she could even open her mouth, I got up, collected my stuff. I was like, "I'm out of here.
Mm.
I'm back." And I used to think that that was a horrible thing, and I was like, "No, girl, you were
Mhm.
saving yourself.
Right.
You were saving yourself." But this Western mentality that we've got
Yeah.
to give these jobs. They're telling us when we can go on vacation. What?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you're sick, you need to come and prove to us that you were sick. No,
Mm.
no, no. And now we're post pandemic and people are going back into, you have to come back into the workplace. It's like, but I did my job when I was home. What?
Exactly.
Why do
Oh,
I have to come back into the office when I was actually more productive when I was at home? Because
yes.
you want to control
That's it.
what it is that I'm
Yeah.
doing. That's
Mm-hmm.
nonsense.
Yeah.
But we have bought into that nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
We've bought
Yeah.
into it. And we're not being paid what we're worth and the value that we bring
No.
to these places and spaces.
Mm-hmm.
No. No. No, no, not after all of that I've experienced in my life and my family has experienced in their life. We've paid that debt. I'm not doing it. And say the same to my daughters. Please don't live a life where you feel like you are pulling your hair out for someone who would step over your cold body to replace you.
Mm. Yeah.
But
That's
there's
right.
that thing in us where we've got to please, 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 please other people so that we think we get some value from it. My value comes from in here. And one of the greatest things that I have been able to cultivate in my life is a very strong no. No, I'm not doing
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not killing myself for somebody else's benefit. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not. I
Mm.
am not. And so I
Yeah.
that is also how you reconnect to yourself. You don't betray yourself. You honor yourself no matter what experience you are in. And if you're in an experience and you ask yourself, am I honoring myself in this experience? And the answer is no, you better have another question like, well, why are you doing that? Why? I don't care if it's a relationship, a work relation, I don't care what it is. Why are we dishonoring ourselves on a daily basis? For what? For someone to
Mm.
say, you're doing a good job. I'm
Mm.
doing more than a good job. I'm killing myself, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
even recognize it or see it,
Exactly.
And then we bring that stuff home to our loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
and they should not have to carry that weight either.
Right. Right.
Which is another reason why, before I move into I'm not bringing that stuff home. Now, I may share some things that are going on, but the heaviness of it, I'm not dumping that on my family. That's not
Mm-hmm.
fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not fair.
Right.
Um, and so you got to have a strong no to support all of the yeses that you want in your life. You know,
Ooh.
if you want to say yes to some stuff, you're going to have to say no to some things. And they both need
Wow.
to be equally strong.
Yeah.
And with conviction, no, I'm not doing that. No, because I got a yes that is waiting on me and it shouldn't have to wait. My yeses should not have to wait. I
Mm-hmm.
want my yeses now. And so
Yeah.
that's why my no's have to be strong too. Yeah, no, I can't do that. Can't do it.
Yeah. Because I feel like so many of us, especially like again in toxic jobs, feel like nothing better is ever gonna come for us. So
And
we
it
have to stay in something that's harming us.
right, it won't come to you if you
Mm.
are allowing yourself to be in that toxicity. It's not going to come.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
As they say, no one is coming to save you or rescue you. You have to save yourself. And I didn't realize until I started to say no to things how much my yeses would get bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I'm
Wow.
telling you,
Wow.
I had to get to a place where, and I think I've said this before, in the beginning of this year, I said, I'm going to have the mindset that everyone loves me until I see that
Mhm.
they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I go into places expecting to be loved because I know I deserve to be loved. And not
Mm.
because I'm nice, not because I'm kind, because I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the only requirement. I'm a human being. Well, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So
Yeah.
I am expecting love in all places because that's the fuel. That's what keeps me going, right? So I want to
Right.
be around the energy that keeps me going. And so one of the things that I've started to do when people are around me with negativity, I don't respond to it.
Mhm.
Do you know how foolish you look when you're complaining and nobody else is hallelujahing or saying hallelujah or amen? And so that's my tactic now. When people are like, "Guess what happened today?" Blah, 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 and I'm silent because I'm not engaging in that.
Right,
I'm just
right.
not. I'm just
Mhm.
not. And so I don't have a lot of that. I don't have a lot of people doing that toxic dump in my
Mhm.
life where they're just,
Yeah.
this is horrible and this is horrible and this is horrible.
Mhm.
No, I'm expecting love. One of the things that my beloved and I will say to one another, tell me something good that happened today.
Mm, mhm.
And I recognized the first time he said that, it took me a minute. And then I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're focusing on the good things first before, okay. Now I'm ready. Now I'm always
Yeah.
ready. I'm like, oh, this is a good thing. And that was a good thing. And I can't wait to share this good thing and that good thing.
Right.
And those are the type of conversations and people that I want to be around.
Mhm.
And the more that I'm around it and expecting it and knowing that I deserve it, I got people loving me in ways that I never expected.
Wow. Wow.
One of the things I said I wanted was romance in my life, and
I remember. Yeah.
all my relationships are
Yeah.
romantic. My friend
Wow.
relationships, my
Wow.
actual romantic, like everything to me right now is an exchange of goodness.
Mhm.
And so we have to have that energy of this is what I deserve. This is
Mhm.
what I want. This is what I prayed for. And so
Right.
this is what I'm drawing in and this is what I'm putting out.
Mm.
I guarantee you, those of us who are in toxic work environments or relationships, we may not realize the negativity that we're also putting out,
Mm.
where we don't have the energy to even be in the midst of good things.
Wow.
We can have a whole conversation about that. It's like when you're in a toxic, let's say a toxic work environment, you're not thinking about coming home and loving on your partner.
Mm,
That's
that's true.
probably one of the furthest things from your
That's true.
mind. You're like, I just want to go home and drink and and go to sleep and eat
Mhm.
something that's not good for me and veg out on some show that's not good for me. We're not really
Mm.
always thinking that, or we're setting up our life in such a way where it's like, I can't wait for vacation. I can't wait for vacation. I can't wait for vacation. And then we get on the vacation and we can't even enjoy it because we're still stuck in the toxicity that we just left. And it's
Right.
taking us time to, decompress. And next thing you know, vacation over, you got to go right back to the toxic place that you were running from.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I'm looking for the good experience, and I recognize not all of life is going to be that way.
Mhm.
I have some challenges right now that are going on, but my way of approaching them is different where I'm not getting stuck in the negativity of it. It's like more solutions based. It's like, okay, how can I see the solution in this?
Mhm.
And I think I've mentioned it before in A Course in Miracles, which I always keep near me. It says the problem and the solution are the same. The solution to every problem is in they are the same if you see it that way.
Mhm.
And so it can be very easy to get caught up in negativity and to feel despair and so even the challenges that I am experiencing right now, I'm not doing it with this toxic positivity. I'm like, yeah, this is a mess, but
Right.
we're going to see our way through it. We're going to see our way through it. We're not going to get stuck. We're not going to constantly complain about it. We're going to see it for the lesson that it is
Right.
and the wisdom that I'm about to gain through this. And there are times when I'll look up at spirit and I'll be like, boy, you got a big lesson for me today because what is this?
Yes.
What
Mhm.
is this? So
Yeah.
it's for me, it's always going to be mindset. It's always going to be a
Mhm.
constant, constant work. When people say do the work, and it's like, well, what is the work? This is the work. How do you want to live? And are you
Mhm.
willing to invest the time and the energy and the focus to create the thing that you say you want?
Mhm.
It's going to live in you regardless. It's
Right.
going to bother you. It's going to constantly annoy you if you're not living it, if you're not doing it, if you're not expressing it. It's
Mm.
going to be like something on your shoulder, like the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. You could have been doing this. You would have been doing that. You
Mhm.
should be doing this. So look at it differently. It's like, okay, what is keeping me resistant? What is keeping me from it? What's in the way? And
Right.
it's probably me and my mindset and what I'm focusing on, where my attention is, and what I'm not saying no to, so that my yeses open all the way up. Let me see the yes in everything
Mhm.
before I get all stuck in the this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Um, it's not. I'm not saying it's easy. It's work, but it's
Mhm.
it's a value. It is a value, um, and I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful that I can walk into places and feel good about what I'm about to do and walk out of those places, even if it wasn't the best day, even if some things happen, I can walk away feeling like I did what I was supposed to do today. You know,
Yeah.
I contributed to someone else's good moment. I made someone else feel better. I let people be seen and heard. I asked questions that had value. And I was really interested and invested in those questions. It wasn't just a, hey, how you doing? And moving on to the next thing.
Mhm.
It's like, I
Yeah.
really want to know. Because here's the thing. If I don't ask you how you're doing, it's probably going to impact me anyway.
Oh,
You know what I
that
mean?
is
You
true.
know,
That
if
is
I don't
true.
say, "Hey, how you doing?
Yes.
How you feeling?" You're probably gonna wind up dumping that on me, or it's gonna impact me in some way. Maybe I'll feel it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll start to notice, and then maybe I'll start to think, "Is it me? Did I do something?" And
Mhm.
so I would hope that we would all get to a place where we realize how we are impacting one another
Mhm.
and asking those questions and seeing each other. It's not just a one-off or a nicety. It really is an investment in one another.
Yeah.
Because if I don't ask you, like I said, did I ever tell Marissa that I love you, that I love her? What if I never said, Marissa, I love you? I don't know
Mhm.
how that could impact you
Yeah.
if I withhold that from you, if I'm feeling it but I don't express it.
Right. Right.
And so I would really love for all of us to get to a place where we recognize how we are impacting one another. If I'm carrying anger, it's going to spill over. It may make me, I could be so upset about something that I stop loving other people,
Mhm.
that I start withholding the good things, or I stop noticing things that I probably would have noticed if I was in a better frame of mind, if I was in a better spirit.
Mhm.
How many missed opportunities do we have because we're so mired in our own stuff that we can't see what's right in front of us?
Mhm.
I noticed the other day, I was like, I don't think I've texted my girls in a little while to say good morning. I love y'all. What's that about?
Mhm.
You know, we never know what the missed opportunity is, but if we keep taking those opportunities, then the missed ones become less and less and less.
Mhm. Mhm.
Ooh.
So true. So true.
Mm.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Ah, so many gems. And yes, I have to go back and watch this. I know I see other people saying, I gotta go back.
I do too.
Me too.
I do too.
Me
Listen, I
too.
wrote a note. I wrote a note to myself. It said, calm down. Because I was like, because you're going to start talking to Marissa and you're going to be like, and what about this? And what about that? You're going to be so off topic. It's like, calm down. I have
Mhm.
not paid attention to my calm down note. But this is what I love to do. I love to have discussions with individuals who
Yeah.
are seeking to not just heal themselves, but to heal others. You have
Mhm.
written this book. Listen, before
Mhm.
we came on and you talked about the book that you have written, For you to take your own personal affirmations and to
Mhm.
offer them to the world is such a gift.
Mhm.
You know, we are in the world of AI where things are
Yes.
being computer generated that may not be coming from the heart. We don't know who is creating it. We don't know the intention behind it. And so for you to take what you have personally gone through and share that with other people, it's becoming more of a rarity. And I hope that we don't lose that, where we think that yes, it is easier to have things generated from us. But if it does not come from your heart,
Mhm.
if it does not come from your life experiences, if it doesn't come from your pain, from your tears, if I can't look at you and say, wow, Marissa went through it,
Mhm.
came out of it, so she has a blueprint
Mhm.
instead of this is some computer generated book that I'm just going to put on the shelf and hopefully people will buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want the blood, the sweat, the tears, the real deal, Holyfield. You have a lived experience
Yeah.
because it makes me feel like my lived experience is possible. So thank you
Mm.
for that gift
Mhm.
because I'm fearful that we're going to lose
Me
that.
too. Me too.
You know, I'm all for convenience, but if it cuts out consciousness and heart,
Mhm.
then it's of no value.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I so appreciate that. Thank you. That means so much, especially coming from you. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
and I know it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? It's like
No.
you put your baby out into the world, knowing how people can criticize and judge, but you
Yeah.
did it anyway. So there was an element of trust in that,
Mhm.
that it
Yes.
would resonate with
Mhm.
others.
Yeah.
And so thank you for trusting yourself enough to share a part of your life with us. That's a big
Thank
thing.
you.
I hope to be as
Hmm.
brave one day.
Oh.
I
No.
do. I really, really do. It really is a courageous thing. You know how the way these people act up on the internet? I mean, I think anyone
Yes.
who is
Yes,
putting
I
their
do.
life's work on display, whew, that's a lot of courage in that.
Yes. Yes. It really is. It really is. I did want to be conscious of your time because I know that we're up on the hour mark. Um, but I guess the last question we can kind of lead into is inner child healing, which
Whew.
you have on your channel. A huge topic. Um,
Yes.
but your series that you've had like over the past year, right?
Mhm.
On Sundays on your channel, I did link Yolanda's YouTube channel
Oh,
in the
thank
description.
you.
But I would love to hear just about like your inspiration behind that and the benefits that we can have when we revisit those various stages of our lives
Mhm.
to heal as adults.
So in 2022, the community that I belong to, we decided that we were going to read All About Love by Bell Hooks for the whole year.
Hmm. Yeah.
And doing it that way, sometimes it would be 1 to 2 paragraphs a day, literally every single morning, reading and talking about what we read. A lot of that book talks about childhood experiences of love and what your lesson was. It talks about getting justice for your inner child. And I never thought about it in that way. I've done inner child healing before, but I never thought about it in a way like getting justice for
Hmm.
little me, because I know little me feels like she's been wronged in a lot of
Yes.
ways. And you mean to tell me I can get justice for her? And for me,
Mm.
justice means balance.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that anyone that may have caused any trauma is going to be punished or going to apologize or going to be forgiven. For me, it's about how can I see this? Because it's not going to leave me.
Hmm.
Those experiences and the way that I feel about them are not going to leave me. So if I'm going to carry it, how can I carry it in a way that is the most loving to me? And so that's really where this year's focus on inner child healing came from. It's like all this stuff was coming up. So, what do I do with it? What do we do with all of these feelings of I'm getting justice for my 8-year old who had adult responsibilities way before she should have? Okay, now what do I do with it? And it's like, well, you
Mhm.
got to take a look at it and see what the root of it is, and heal it and love it and hold it in a different way. And so we've looked at the developmental stages. Some of them we've taken a little bit longer, particularly this 21 to 35 age
Mhm.
range, because that is such a
Ooh.
powerful age range for many of us.
Yes.
When we talked about disruption, woo,
Ooh.
there's a lot of disruption that comes.
So much.
But it is also disruption to me is now that I know is a healing agent. It
Mm.
means that there is something that we need to be made aware of, and it's coming in like a freight train so that we
Mhm.
pay attention to it. Because the little things that happen, we don't really.
Mhm.
But when something uproots your life and
Yes.
shocks you, you have
Yes.
to pay attention to it. And so, inner child healing is not just things from our childhood, it follows us every step of our lifespan.
Yeah.
As I like to say, right now, today, there were some things that I approached like a child because I had never experienced them before, or I didn't know what to say, or they caught me off guard, or I did not feel developed enough mentally, emotionally, spiritually to face them at that time.
Right.
I mean, things that happen today, conversations, or maybe I was presented with something where I felt the fear of an 8-year old pop up, like, I'm not going to be any good at this. I don't know.
Yeah.
All of those things still happen to us. And so we have to recognize it, become aware of when it happens so we don't revert back to childlike behavior, because
Mm.
there are many of us that are having tantrums like 2-year olds. There are many of us who are avoiding things like children tend to do. Uh,
Mhm.
it was so funny to me. There was a little girl in my office today, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, la, 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 like trying to drown me out. And I'm like, I do that as an adult. When there are things I don't want to be responsible for, I'm like,
Yeah.
how can I avoid it? How can I act like it's not happening?
Yeah.
And so inner child healing allows us to approach our life experiences in a way that is more emotionally, mentally mature, spiritually mature, and even physically mature,
Mhm.
because that stuff does not leave us. It is still with us. If you can remember things that happened to you when you were 5, with all of the other things that you have experienced in your life, those
Mhm.
profound moments are still with you. And they are probably asking for attention, for recognition, for healing. So why not give that gift to yourself to say, okay, maybe the people that should have seen you, heard you, supported you, protected you, maybe they didn't do it then. I can do it now so that you don't have to show up like an 8-year old. You don't have to show up like a 20-year old. You don't have to show up like an immature version of yourself. You can show up your most healed, your most holy, your most sacred, your most balanced and consciously aware, where you're not affecting other people and other people are not affecting you. And so, in those moments when I may feel like a disrespected 16-year-old that wants to fight,
Yes.
I can say, wait a minute,
Yeah.
that happened when you were 16. See it differently.
Ooh.
See it differently and recognize that you don't have to respond or react in that way.
Right.
Like I said earlier, when people are complaining, I would be the one like, yeah, we need to do something about that. How dare they disrespect you?
Yep.
I have a long history of fighting other people's battles,
Mm.
jumping into stuff that have nothing to do with me. But because I know what disrespect feels like, I don't like to
Yeah.
see it in other people. So that makes me want to fight. And I'm gonna scream for you, girl. You ain't gotta worry about it. Let's go do that. So that was me as a
Yeah.
teenager and as a young person. Now it's like, well, wait a minute. Is this for me to even intervene? Because maybe there's a lesson in this for that person that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Mm. Wow. Yep.
So that's where inner child healing can come in,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can make adjustments, that things are still impacting us. We see it all over when people are having breakdowns, challenges.
Right.
That's another reason why I love inner child healing,
Mm-hmm.
because when I see someone else, I recognize that's an unhealed version of their childhood that I don't have anything to do with.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I'm sure being impacted by it.
Mm-hmm.
When I see adults literally arguing with children, I'm like, that's not an adult arguing with a 4-year-old. That's two 4-year-olds going to battle,
Ooh. Yes. Uh-huh.
because there's something going on that has triggered that 4-year-old in them, where they feel like, no, you're not going to do this. You're not going to behave this way. And maybe that's because that's something that they heard, they seen, the way that they were raised. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not going to criticize it or judge it. I'm just going to become aware that what I'm seeing may not be what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that people get to act up in my life, and no, that doesn't mean that. That means I don't have to feel like I got to respond to somebody else's inappropriate behavior, because my inner children are in check. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're not going to have two 15-year-olds arguing about something insignificant. You get to be who you are, and I'm going to be
Mm.
the healed version of myself for as long as I can. She don't always come out healed. Sometimes,
Yeah.
but at least I'm aware of it.
Yeah. That's
And I can
pivotal.
come back to it later. There are
Mm-hmm.
times when I'll say something, do something, and then later on I'm like, that was
Mm-hmm.
really immature of you.
Yeah.
What
Me
was
too.
what was that about?
Mm-hmm.
You felt disrespected, but your response was not equitable to what was said. That's some old stuff that came up.
Yes. Yes.
And you need to be aware of it. Check yourself, Yolanda, so that, you're not out here being emotionally immature in other people's places and spaces. Because then now we all triggered.
Mm.
Now we all got a bunch of teenagers running around, trying to be right,
Yeah.
trying to be heard, trying to, whatever it was that we didn't feel that we got when we were that age.
Yeah.
So that is why I love inner child healing. And I know that it will continue.
Mm-hmm.
As we continue our series, we're going to go into an area of life that I haven't even reached yet, but I'm excited about it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Me
let's
too.
see. You
Yes.
know,
Mm-hmm.
word on the street is my second Saturn return is coming up
Oh, not.
in a couple of years. So I'm like, okay, let me be aware
Oh.
of it. Not that I'm going to change particular things when it happens, but I just want to be aware.
Right.
As the Jill Scott song says, I just want to be prepared. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be prepared,
Yeah.
so that I'm not running amok and going through lessons that I've already gone through. Like, why? Girl, you got the lesson, you got the wisdom, you got the experience. Don't go through it again. Do it differently,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Approach it differently. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is why we are taking this year for inner child healing. I don't know what next year will bring.
Mm-hmm.
I always wait to see what the lesson was from the previous year before I, enter into a new year to say, oh, we're going to be doing this, or we're going to be doing that. I just realized that the Mama Meditation series started a year ago this month,
Oh wow.
and I had to be forced to do that. So I am grateful
Mm-hmm.
that individuals tune in, give feedback, because we are all
Yes.
healing together.
Yes. We are.
With all of our different life experiences, we are healing together. And that's what we are supposed to do:
Mm-hmm.
support one another, heal with one another,
Right.
doing what you're doing, sharing our experiences, our pain, our suffering, and our healing, to say it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely possible.
Yeah. It is. It is.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much.
You are
Again,
so
I
welcome.
have to go back and watch this. Everything that you shared, every time we talk, seriously.
Every single time. Let me just say that our sessions together, you were writing stuff, I was writing stuff. I mean, and that's what, for me,
Yeah.
that's the joy of healing. Those,
Yes.
as Oprah says, those aha moments where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I may say something I didn't know I was going to say it, but it's serving both of us. So yay!
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I'm excited to get your book and to go
Oh, thank
through
you.
the
Mm-hmm.
affirmations,
Yeah.
because it's meaningful. It's meaningful work. So thank you for what you are doing for us
Hmm.
on all of your platforms.
Mm-hmm.
It's I've said it before. It's freedom work, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
whew, it ain't
Mm-hmm.
easy in these streets. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I did, as we wrap up, if you wanted to share where people can follow you, follow your journey going forward online. Um, yeah.
That's becoming less and less. So that's one of the things
Yeah.
that I had to say no to. When I
Mm,
started the
yeah.
YouTube channel a year ago, there was a vision for it, but I recognized what it requires for it to be that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not where I want to put my time. Like, I literally want to come home,
Yeah.
smoke a cigar, play with the dog, play with grandbaby girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like, life is taking a change that I never anticipated, but I'm welcoming it. So I am on YouTube Sundays at 1 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much it. I don't do too much
Okay.
on my
Yeah.
Instagram like I used to. I don't do too much on my Facebook like I used to. I'm really spending time investing in my romantic relationship. This is the first relationship where I am consciously aware of the work that is required to to sustain a relationship with a man. It is not easy. Girl, not easy. And it's not that it's difficult.
Yes.
It's
Uh-huh.
just it's work. It's
Mm-hmm.
work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving the work. You know what I mean? I'm loving the
Mm-hmm.
evolution of it. My oldest child will be 30 in a couple of days. So I have been a mother more than half of my life.
Wow. Yeah.
And even that is new.
Mm-hmm.
I'm investing in that in a different way. I'm a grandmother. I'm investing in that in a different way. I am working with select communities. So for anyone um, in the state of Delaware, specifically the city of Wilmington, I'm doing work with Black Mothers in Power. I'm doing childbirth education classes. I'm doing a sacred womanhood support group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where my work is in the city of Wilmington, and online Sunday on my YouTube channel. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with those two places and spaces.
Right.
Um, I used to be all over the place, running here, running there,
Mm-hmm.
doing international coaching.
Right.
She's done with it for that for right now. Doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that it transition back. And I even gave up my website.
I saw
People,
that. I went on your website. I'm like, your website's not here anymore.
nope, it's gone. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
like
Wow.
the time and the investment to do it well
Yeah.
is more than I am willing to give because I want that time and energy to go into other places.
Mm.
Um, and so I'm so excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really really excited about what may look like a limitation is really, like I said, an expansion, and it affords me the opportunity to make choices that feel right in here and not choices that I'm chasing. It's
Ooh.
like, oh, that looks like a
Yes.
good idea. Oh, that looks like I want to do that. Oh, that looks like I want to do that. For me, and I'm not saying it's right for everyone, but for me, that created a lot of anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of feeling like I was never where I needed to be or wanted to be long enough. So I'm like, you are overwhelmed.
Yes.
Cut it down so it's actually giving you more time.
Mm-hmm.
Friday is grandparents' day at my grandbaby girl's preschool, and I get to go. Like, that may not have been
Yes.
possible before. It's like I get to
Yeah.
go to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my focus and attention is. So for all of you lovelies who have reached out and say, "Are you still coaching?" I'm coaching in very select places, not online, not one on one.
Yeah.
In my daily life experiences, that's where I'm coaching.
Hmm. That's beautiful. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah.
If
And we
it
look.
changes, I'll let you know.
Okay. Please do. Yes,
I
we look
shall. I
forward
shall.
to watching your weekly meditations on Sundays on your channel.
Yes.
Again, Coach Yolanda on YouTube for y'all.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, as we wrap up, I think this sums it up. This was so nourishing,
It
and
it really was. Thank you.
thank
I
you,
could talk to
thank
you
you.
forever, forever.
The
And
feeling is
thank you
mutual.
to all of you for your kind and encouraging words. I don't know if you even know how much that means to those of us who do things like this. Getting that
Mhm.
immediate feedback feels so good. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. All the beautiful comments that I've just been reading.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for being here. And Yolanda, thank you again.
I love you, Marissa.
I love you too, Yolanda.
All right, be blessed.
All right, y'all. See you later. Bye.